Hey everybody, welcome back to Daughters of the King. I'm Kathryn Gore. I'm trying to get used to this background here. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. I'm testing it out here. I got my banner up for my ministry, Daughters of the King. Got the sword back there. Got my shield. I don't know. It's gonna be okay. um We are still on the war on gender. We are coming to an end. And tonight I want to read the final article to give you my thoughts in regards to this whole series. Okay, this article is going to be about a gentleman that transitioned from a man to a woman, and he's going to give his thoughts on his experience, his life, and why he feels what he feels today. So we're going to read the article, and then I'm going to share with you how I feel about this whole entire series, okay? I don't know why it seems like my light is doing its own thing, but bear with me, y'all. So this article is titled Hormones, Surgery, Regret. Excuse me. I was a transgender woman for 8 years. Time I can't get back. This is the title of the article. And Walt said, I started my transgender journey as a 4-year-old boy. I want y'all to listen to this. This happened when my grandmother repeatedly, over several years, cross-dressed me in a full-length purple dress she made especially for me, and told me how pretty I was as a girl. This planted the seed of gender confusion and led me to transitioning at age 42 to transgender female. So the last time I met with you all, I was telling you all that this is a spiritual battle. And I believe I was sharing with you all that there's no shame, there's no condemnation in those who loves the Lord. If you are a Christian and you needed to be delivered for whatever reason, don't be embarrassed, because Christians do have demons, right? And I was telling you all that I know of someone whose grandmother dedicated their grandchild to Satan. She was praying, basically trying to get her geared up to be, believe, a witch or something, some type of work in the dark kingdom. This grandmother, what was inside of her that's going to make her realize, understand fully, this was a male from birth. She made a special long dress and repeatedly put it on this young boy around the age of 4. What's wrong? What's wrong? What side was she working on? This is what I'm saying, and this is why I told y'all the last time that the grace of God is so sufficient. His mercy, His love, because people are victims and they did not ask for it. He was a little boy who probably trusted his grandmother. My grandbaby trusts me, and I would hope that I don't do anything to make her go off into goofy land or stir her on the path of destruction on purpose. So we have to be careful within our family. We have to be careful and mindful about so much stuff when it comes to our seed, our children, our grandchildren. Okay? So this guy transitions at the age of 42 years old, but this started, his transgender transitioning started at 4. Okay? He started to be a cross-dresser. So he continues on to say, I lived as Laura for 8 years, but as now know, gosh, transitioning doesn't fix the underlying ailments. This is his new perspective. This is his position in regards to everything he experienced. He said, I lived as Laura for 8 years, but as I now know, transitioning doesn't fix the underlying ailments. Well, what ailments are you speaking of, sir? Because life happens, right? We all get hurt. I believe everybody in this entire world has felt some type of rejection, abuse, trauma, fear. You can't escape this type of stuff, especially with Satan being the power of the world, so to speak, the ruler of the world. You know, God owns everything, but this is Satan's little kingdom, the world, right? So Walt continues to say, studies show that most people who want to live the opposite sex have other psychological issues such as depression or anxiety. In my case, I was diagnosed at age 40 with gender dysphoria and at the age 50 with psychological issues due to childhood trauma. I did a series on trauma maybe 2 years back, and it was real. It was real. Maybe I'll go back in my feed and see what I can find, because trauma is real. Trauma can split your soul. Trauma can bring the pain and the memories in such a way where you're constantly rehashing it in your mind and your soul and your spirit. You're constantly living under bondage when it comes to trauma. Trauma actually is something that happens inside of a person that totally, I'm going to use the word, can destroy a person's soul. We all have trauma, different layers of trauma, different kind of trauma, and we have to walk this stuff out. And this is why we need to be around people who have the wisdom and knowledge to get us through. Life happens. Life happens. And most times we don't ask for the things that are brought to us. It's like the enemy is like, here you go. Take that. And go on and sit down somewhere and you sit in that. You deal with that because this is what I want you to take. This is what I want you to have. I want you to be split apart, fragmented, and not be made whole like Jesus wants you to be. I don't want you to be free. I want you to be broken to the point that you can't function. You can't breathe. You have anxiety, depression. Like, oh my gosh. It's a horrible thing that can happen, or horrible things that can happen in people's lives, right? And sometimes people can't recover because they don't know how. But this is why God is so awesome, because He wants to come and heal. He wants to come and make His people whole. He wants them to be free from bondage that this world has placed upon them, right? So, Walt says, eventually my parents found out about his grandmom dressing him like a little girl, trying to turn him into a little girl. He said, and my unsupervised visits to grandma's house ended. I thought my secret was safe, but my teenage uncle heard about it and felt I was fair game for taunting and sexual abuse. The perversion is real. I'm talking about sexual perversion now. A teenage boy decided to prey on the family, the young boy in the family. You want to talk about sexual abuse, you want to talk about incest, you want to talk about molestation, you want to talk about all manner of evil that has now attached itself to this little boy who didn't ask for any of this. He didn't ask for his grandmom to look at him like he was a girl. People's minds are messed up, and the enemy can come into a willing vessel to destroy whomever he so desires. That willing vessel has to be full in agreement to say, oh, I'll do it. Oh, y'all, the enemy, I can't stand that devil. Oh, y'all want to stop fighting each other and get mad at the devil. That's real talk. So now he's being sexually abused by his uncle. He said, I wasn't even 10 years old. If not for the purple dress, I believe I would have not been abused by my uncle. That woman, that grandmom, set open all kinds of traps and doors for this young boy to be totally lost. Shame on her. So the story continues to say, my high school's transgender bathroom policies violated the privacy of the rest of us. High school could have been hell for my transgender son. Don't make it hell for the next kids. That did not go with the story. I'm sorry. Take that out. This is sometimes they'll write articles and then they'll put something else in that article that ties to something else for somebody to be interested also in something else so they can click on that. So I apologize. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So scrap that. He's going to go on and say that the abuse caused me to not want to be a male anymore. So this is him basically saying he was violated and this abuse messed him up to the point where he didn't want to be a male anymore. Cross-dressing gave him an escape. He said, I lay awake at night secretly begging God to change me into a girl. In my childlike thinking, if I could only be a girl, then I could be accepted, or I would be accepted and affirmed by the adults in my life. This was his mind. He's thinking if he could only be a girl, he would be accepted. He said he would be safe. Now, he said gender dysphoria is about identity, not sexual orientation. He said, I was never a homosexual. I was interested in dating girls. In my early 20s and engaged to be married, I confided to my fiance about my cross-dressing. She figured we could work it out. We got married and had 2 children. In my work life, I was successful, but the girl persona still occupied my thoughts. So he's married to a female. He has 2 children. He said he never really was drawn to men. He wasn't a homosexual. He just wanted that woman that was inside of him to be free. Listen to this. With weekly travel away from home, I easily indulged in cross-dressing, fueling the desire to be a woman. By the time I was 40, I couldn't take the pressure of living two separate lives. I felt torn apart, wanting to be a good husband and father, but in severe torment about needing to be a woman. He used words that should be able to trigger you that this could be a spirit, a tormenting spirit. He said severe torment. He needed to be a woman. Last week I told y'all it's very possible that, it's not very possible, I know that people have feminine spirits. Men have feminine spirits. Spirits from the devil. They can oppress on the inside of a person and try to live life through that vessel, take over their body. Look at, we're talking about a man. So it could be a woman spirit that is drawn to a man. It gets real crazy at times. This man really wanted to be a woman. I'm telling you right now, people in the world, they think about this stuff and they laugh and they'll name these spirits that are inside of them, and they know it's spirits. They'll name them and say, well, yeah, she makes me do this, or he'll make me do this, and that we'll have fun and all this stuff. And they don't even understand that their soul is severely damaged to the point where they don't even understand that they're completely lost, because they think they're having fun with what these spirits on the inside. They're fully aware of these spirits. Beyonce has what? Sasha? Sasha makes her move and do all kinds of stuff, and she freely admitted that she can't move like that. She says she does not have the rhythm, the strength, all of that stuff. It is a spirit that comes and takes control and fully manifests in Beyonce and makes her do what she does. And Beyonce is okay with that. So he says that he needed to be a woman. He said, I sought out the top gender specialist at the time, Dr. Paul Walker, who had co-authored the 1979 Standards of Care for Transgender Health. This is years and years ago. I was born in 79. Didn't even know that all this stuff was going on in the background. Even as I'm learning through this series, I didn't know that it was that. I mean, you read stuff, but it's just like, wow, you just didn't know. So it says, he diagnosed me with gender identity disorder, now considered gender dysphoria, and recommended cross-sex hormones and sex-change genital surgery. He told me that the childhood events were not related to my current gender distress, and that the sex change was the only solution. These doctors, one thing I can tell you, some of them have a spiritual perspective, but some of them really don't. They think that people don't go through spiritual warfare. They think that things that go on the inside of a body is not due to spirits, demons. How can it be? Is what they say. Oh, let me give you some medication to help you. And as soon as that medication wears out, or as soon as they stop taking it, they go right back to whatever, because that spirit is still inside of that person. This is like as real as it gets, and I really want this to hit home for y'all, okay? So he says, the sex change was the only solution. So he said, I started taking female hormones and scheduled the surgery for April 1983 in Trinidad, Colorado. He said I was 42 years old. My marriage ended shortly before surgery. In addition to genital reconfiguration, I had breast implants, and other feminizing procedures, and changed my birth certificate to Laura Jensen, female. My childhood dream was realized, and my life as a woman began at 42 years old. Now, this next section is titled "A Fresh Start, Then a Harder Fall." I love how he wrote this, because this is exactly what happens. You think you start off good, but then you go do some things and you realize, my God, oh my God, I made a mistake. And you fall, and you fall hard. You fall hard. So he says, at first, I was giddy with excitement. It seemed like a fresh start. Remind you, he's 42 years old. He didn't live more than half of his life. He said, I could sever ties with my former life as Walt and my painful past. But reality soon hit. My children and former wife were devastated when I told my employer my career was over. As Laura, I decided to pursue being a counselor and started courses at the University of California, Santa Cruz in the late 1980s. There, a crack in my carefully crafted female persona opened, and I began to question my transition. The reprieve I experienced through surgery was only temporary. Hidden underneath the makeup and female clothing was a little boy hurt by childhood trauma. I told y'all the enemy comes at a very early age to try to destroy an innocent body. This is what gets me upset. This is what gets me upset. Because the devil, he does not play fair. His one goal is destruction. To steal, kill, and destroy. He realized that he was still hurt underneath all that makeup and all that stuff. He realized that the little boy in him needed to be healed. He didn't want to do all of this stuff, still suffering. So he said, once again, experiencing gender dysphoria, but this time I felt like a male inside of a body refashioned to look like a woman. I was living my dream, but still I was deeply suicidal. A gender specialist told me to give it more time. 8 years seemed like an awfully long time to me. Nothing made sense. Why hadn't the recommended hormones and surgery worked? Why was I still distressed about my gender identity? Why wasn't I happy being Laura? Why did I have strong desires to be Walt again? Emotionally, I was a mess. But with grit and determination and the love and support of several families and counselors, I pursued healing on a psychological level. With expert guidance, I dared to revisit the emotional trauma of my youth. It wasn't easy, but it was the only way to address the underlying conditions driving my gender dysphoria. When deliverances are performed at our church, we were taught that you have to be led by the Spirit, but you also have to have understanding that that Spirit has trained that person's mind to think in a way that is ungodly, not correct. That these spirits that enter into people, they want to destroy. So he's suffering, but he started to get the healing that he needs. And my whole point is this: You have to address when God says so. You have to address the spirit, and you also have to bring healing and counseling so that they can understand what this spirit did to them and how they have to retrain their mind by the word of God, or by allowing themselves to enter into a safe place so that they can get the true healing that God wants them to have. Now, when you get spirits cast out, the spirits are going to try to come back in because they have gotten comfortable, they claimed you, and this is the fight, this is the war. So you have to be guarded to the point where when it does come back to tempt you, to try to get your mind to go back to what it always was, you have to say, no, I know the truth now. And I know that I've been set free. You don't belong here no more. You've got to go. You've got to get away from my territory. This is my territory. You can't even invade in my space anymore. Okay? You have to fight, and you have to be. Them spirits, they're coming heavy. They're going to try to enter back in very strong. And you have to be strong enough to say, I don't want you anymore. I don't need you. You're not good for me. This is real. So, he said, I was 50 when I had the breast implants removed, but the next few years were spent in confusion and counseling. In 1996, at the age of 55, I was finally free from the desire to live as a woman and changed my legal documents back to Walt, my biological correct male sex. So this young man at the age of 4, his grandmother tried to put a dress on him. He lived most of his life messed up, finally free at 55 years old to say he no longer wanted to live as a female. That's a long bondage. That's a long lifetime to spend in that type of confusion and torment, right? So he said, I still have scars on my chest, reminders of the gender detour that cost me 13 years of my life. I am on a hormone regimen to try to regulate a system that is permanently altered. Remember, I told you all in one of these episodes that sometimes people get these surgeries and they can't go back to change these surgeries. It permanently destroys something on the inside. It can. And he basically said, hey, I'm trying to manage what permanently altered my body here. So the next section is called Regret is Real. He said, eventually I met a wonderful woman who didn't care about the changes to my body, and we've been married for 21 years. You might think, how old is this gentleman? He at least almost 80 years old. But this is his testimony, and I'm pretty sure this is going to help somebody. He said they've been married for 21 years. Now, we help others whose lives have been derailed by sex change. So he's saying now, him and his wife together, they help others who have been messed up by this whole system of transitioning in the gender, transgender movement. So he said, measured by the human benefit to a hurting population, it is a priceless way to spend our time. Had I not been misled by media stories of sex change success and by medical practitioners who said transitioning was the answer to my problems, which they have not stopped doing that. They're telling these kids this today. He said I wouldn't have suffered as I have. Genetics can't be changed. Genetics can't be changed. Feelings, however, can and do change. I told you all last time I spoke to y'all that Brandon Tatum says sometimes parents don't understand that these kids are going through a phase, and they're making decisions based off of something that they're going through a phase with to permanently alter someone's body. So he said, Walt said, underlying issues often drive the desire to escape one's life into another, and they need to be addressed before taking the radical step of transitioning. I fully agree. He said, you will hear the media say regret is rare, but they are not reading my inbox, which is full of messages from transgender individuals who want the life and body back that was taken from them by cross-sex hormones, surgery, and living under a new identity. After detransitioning, I know the truth. Hormones and surgery may alter appearances, but nothing changes the immutable fact of your sex. This is his story. I told you all in one of these episodes that the bones don't lie. You can try to alter your outside appearance, but your bones are going to tell the truth. When the coroner or when the morgue person reviews you and tells people who you are, they're going to tell you who you were born as, not as who you decided to change from. So this is real. This is real. My thoughts on this, y'all, is the enemy's evil. He's dark. He doesn't play fair, and he needs to be stopped. We have to keep sharing truth because lives are at stake. These people are suffering. The transgender community, they may act like they're free. On the inside, they're still suffering. It's only going to take God. It's only going to take his son Jesus to help them be free. Excuse me. So, just a second. This is the ending for the war on gender. One second. And I pray that you all got something from this series, because this is what God wants to talk about. This is what he wanted to stress to the world. He does not make mistakes. He loves you. He created you with a purpose, a plan. You can walk that plan out. Life is hard, but the harder life gets, that's what he's there for. He's there to bring you your peace, your comfort. He's there to help you and guide you through life. You just have to find him and open up your heart to receive him. So transitioning is not the answer. It causes more damage. Jesus is the answer. He will forever be the answer. That's real. So I'll see y'all next week. I don't know what God's going to have me do, but thank you for joining me for this series. I pray that all who are struggling with the thoughts of being the opposite sex or homosexuality or whatever you may be struggling with on the inside with your gender, please seek God before you do anything else. Just give it all to the Lord. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all soon. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching Daughters of the King. We appreciate your support. You can reach me at www.dotking.org. That's www.dotking.org. You can subscribe or send a message through live chat, or you can send an email to Kathryn, Kathryn, @dotking.org. This ministry is designed to speak to your heart. Feel free to share your thoughts about the message or give insight on a topic that you would like for me to discuss. We are here for you.